Hi, and welcome to Take It to Two. I'm Angela Griffith.
And I'm Erin Gillette. We're just back from Thanksgiving. Don't laugh at me. I have a cold.
I think it's funny that neither one of my children nor I was ground zero this time and gave you anything.
I know. You can't even blame you. My niece had a small sniffle, but I don't think that's what it is. I think there's something going around that's like,
yeah,
it's in my throat.
It's called going home for Thanksgiving.
Pittsburgh. God damn it.
Well, if we ever listen to The Traveler, she says that when you get something, it has to do with emotions. And so I'm going to just look up what a cold cold is.
I know. Well, I think when it's...
If I can find where that is.
If you have a sore throat, it has to do with, like, expressing yourself. And that's not what I have.
Your throat was sore. I think it's from too much oral sex, but that's just
me. Right. That's exactly what the problem is.
Okay, deafness. Would you like to know what I'd like to be deaf sometimes. Cold.
People listening to this
cold sores. Would you like to be deaf or cold sores? Okay, let's just read what a general cold.
Oh, God. It's going to be like, it's because your mother's coming to stay with you.
I have to just tell you a little aside. I use the same, it's, if anybody cares, it's Louise Hayes.
Yeah.
She runs something called Hayes House Publishing or something, and she has this whole, theory, belief system that whenever you're sick, though things can happen, or like you can injure yourself, but whether it lasts longer or you embrace it or it really affects your life has to do with something emotional going on.
Right.
So during Thanksgiving, of course, my mother-in-law was telling me about her legs and her feet, and then my father-in-law with like one of his eyes and a headache and whatever. And they said, don't you have that application on your phone? Tell us what it is. And I'm like, I hate to read these things out loud because I said, do you want other people to know like what?
Ramon indignant. Too much sex on your part.
Yeah, you're banging like old 70-year-olds. Stop it. But I never know because it's always a little bit emotional. And like if it's wrong, then everybody's going, oh, she's got a problem with, such and such. Or if it's right, then they get really quiet and then everybody looks at them. So here we go. We're going to tell everybody, our 3 listeners. Okay, colds, upper respiratory illnesses. Okay, probable cause. Here you go, Erin.
Germs. Probable cause, germs.
The loss of Donnie Wahlberg.
Oh, I knew it.
They're getting their own reality show.
I know, so they're not going to last.
Fuck them.
That's what
exactly. Yeah, good.
Sorry about that.
Okay, here we go. Probable cause. Too much going on at once. Mental confusion, disorder.
Mental disorder. Nailed it.
Maybe they're talking about me. Small hurts. I get 3 colds every winter type of belief.
Oh, no. I don't think I do that. Do I say that?
Every Thanksgiving I get sick.
Every Thanksgiving, Angela's children get me sick.
Okay. New thought pattern. I thought this said, allow my mind to sex. Okay, I'm sorry. I allow my mind to relax and be at peace. Clarity and harmony are within me and around me. All is well.
What? Oh, that's what I'm supposed to think?
Yes. You don't think that? I don't know.
I don't think.
You're sick. You're not supposed to be thinking. But there's a lot of shit that's gone on while we've been on break for Thanksgiving. I guess our friend, what's his name? Fat Albert. What's his name?
Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby. What the fuck? I don't even know what to say. Ferguson. I do know what to say there. What else has gone on? ISIS has kind of lost their mind in the Middle East. Ray Rice. Going back to what the fuck? I don't even know where to start. Oh, and you know what? I just heard the saddest news, but you don't watch them. Because for me, everything goes back to reality TV. Candy Burris' husband, Todd Tucker, his mom died on Tuesday, had a stroke, fell into a coma, and she passed away right after Thanksgiving.
That's too bad.
I know. And you know what's really weird about reality TV, and I think you'd probably agree, is that because you watch them and it's so intimate, you feel like you know them. And I feel really bad for him. And they were so close.
That's terrible.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. Sorry, that didn't sound very sympathetic, but it is. It's just...
Have some more NyQuil. This will be a really fun and short show. Thank you for joining us. This has been Taken to Two. Double D's going to bed.
So I made homemade chicken noodle soup for myself yesterday.
You did?
Yeah. I'm such a homemaker.
You are a homemaker.
It was delicious. And then I took a nap for like 4 hours. I went to yoga. I made a homemade chicken noodle soup. I fell asleep for 4 hours. Got up, had more chicken noodle soup. Went back to bed. Got up really super fucking early this morning to go to spin. I'm trying. I'm when I stop moving, I feel like shit. So I feel like if I
are you taking anything over the counter, or are you going to do what the traveler says and it's emotional? Don't take anything and just suffer.
Well, please, better living through pharmacology is what I say. But
here.
I'm trying to drink I'm trying to drink as much tea as I can to get that. You know what I decided? I do not like honey. Like
What?
I don't. I need salt, not sweet. And the traveler said to me, put a little bit of tea in your, or put a little tea in your honey. Put a little honey in your tea. It's it's really good for you. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm thinking to myself while I was making the tea, I was like, I don't really like sweet stuff. I've never really liked honey. I have honey.
Have you ever used honey outside of
I put honey.
Listening to the Traveler?
I put honey in my smoothies because it's so good for you, and because I can't taste it, so it doesn't. Right. It makes the yogurt a little sweeter, which I like, but I can't taste the honey, so I always just put I'm like, Argh.
I like to put French fries in my smoothies.
That sounds
Makes
delicious
me feel
too.
so much better. It's got salt and fat.
But so I put it in my tea, and I was like, this is disgusting. Like, I was disgusted with this tea. So
How much honey did you put in?
I just put a little squirt.
I have to tell you that there was just a study out within the last couple of weeks. It's funny because the Traveler was texting me when Star Wars Jen, my daughter, had her tonsils out. And we hit upon the same thing. They just came out. The article essentially said, this is why your mom always said that honey was good for you when you're sick and when you have oral surgeries of some sort, is because it's a natural astringent.
Yeah.
Who the fuck knew that? I thought it had all these kind of soothing properties and whatever, and they said it's actually probably just as good as when you gargle with like
salt water.
Yeah, is that not wild?
That's weird.
And it actually, so when you've had stuff, surgical oral stuff, and if you have it in something or have it in tea, it has astringent qualities.
Huh. I was reading an article about like trying to figure out ways to soothe my cold because I don't want to
your rough throat. I know. Well, there's a special kind of something that you can use to soothe your throat.
Yeah, that's what somebody wants to do right now. I'm super sexy.
Listen, I pretty much think guys want to do that all the time. Whether you're the willing receptacle now is something completely.
I can't breathe. It's fine.
We've been on the air for what 7 minutes, and we've already talked about oral sex twice.
Well, I was reading this article because I'm definitely.
I hate when you read.
I know. I'm definitely all about drugs. Like, let's take as many drugs as you can give me. At the same time, I don't want to overload on, like, cold medicine to me is not.
Well, then you're not any kind of good drug addict I want to know.
No, cold medicine doesn't do it. Like, if we're talking about something that's going to make me mellow, that's totally different. But, like, Mucinex, I don't want to overdose on Mucinex. What a
Maybe
boring
you need one
drug.
of those marijuana lozenges.
I would love a marijuana lozenge. Though I probably gained like 40 pounds. I'd be like, wow, dude.
Wow, my throat doesn't hurt because I'm eating Doritos now.
Doritos, brownies. It just would be sick. But one of the things that it said was to gargle salt water, which I knew.
Right.
But it said if you don't like the taste of that, to put honey because it was good. So do the salt water with the honey. And I was like, that might be the only way that I would ever like honey. If I could just dump a bunch of salt in it. But, no, I'll be fine. I'll get over the cold.
That sounds horrible.
I won't die. I did tell the Traveler last night. She said, I was texting with her and she said, are you gonna make it? Like, are you gonna live?
You went to exercise class this morning, maniac.
She said, are you gonna make it? Are you gonna live? And I said, I think so, but if I don't, could you please go to my house and get rid of like my vibrators and like
my mom's coming.
My vibrators, my straps in the bed, like get rid of anything sex related at my house.
Where most of them have been given to you by the Traveler, should I say?
But my parents would die. Like, I don't want my parents cleaning out my house and being like, wow.
And does anybody have a key to
bondage
your
straps.
apartment if anything happened?
Anna and Katie do.
Jesus. Okay. Just so.
Please, God.
It's going to be like CSI. I'm going to bring the black light over there. Go. There is Joe.
If you stop and think about it
there's Donnie Wahlberg.
Just stop and think. If someone came into your house right now and went through and you weren't there to explain stuff, wouldn't you be a little mortified?
There's journals that I have that are private because I it's funny that you brought this up because I kind of I feel like I want to destroy some of that because I thought, fuck, if my kids read some of this stuff.
Yeah. There's just things or things that I would have a hard time explaining. Like, I have this ginormous bottle of lube that Anna and Katie...
Lube or loop?
Lube. That Anna and Katie tried to slip in my suitcase when we went to Vegas because they thought it would be funny to have to pull it out. And
pull it out.
And of course I found it before we left and thought, I just happened to have that. I didn't even know that it wasn't mine to begin with.
That's so funny.
But it's like a ginormous economy size. My mother would be like
with a big pump, like the pump shampoos.
But But it just, like, I don't want somebody to find that. Or, like, I have like, like, gemstones and stuff under my pillow that people would be like, what the fuck is this? Or, like, keep
they would
weird
be
thing in
making
the
it-
freezers. I don't
It's
know.
kind of funny because you're thinking that, like, you would care that anybody had found that stuff. You know what I mean? And it's, and
want
I don't
my
know if
mother
you
to
would.
find it.
Huh?
I wouldn't want my mother to be like, oh, look, she has bondage straps under her bed.
But essentially, though, you're speaking from actually being here. Like, if you're dead, you think you're around going, oh, shit, my mom just found my vibrator?
No,
or do you
but
think you're like...
It's not that I would be embarrassed. I just would feel
Your
like,
mom
can you
would be
imagine?
embarrassed?
Can you imagine?
God, my daughter has an enormous number of vibrators.
My God, that's the biggest dildo I've ever seen. I don't have one, but that would be. I mean, it just
But
would
now
be weird.
we have an idea for your birthday, which is on St. Patrick's Day. That's amazing. Would you like a big
my
dildo
God.
for your birthday?
No, that's too much work. Who wants a dildo?
No.
No, right? That's creepy to me. I don't want to. Some dildos have suction cups on the bottom, so you can like put them against a wall or on a table or something.
Well, first of all, can you get your leg up on? You probably could, but I don't. I would hurt myself. My balance is not that good to begin with.
And just
What, squat over it? It's just like how?
This is too much
I'm
work.
sorry. I'm sorry.
too much
It's
work.
11:44 in the morning. Can we just back up and truly envision the National Geographics going on with me with a dildo on a table? First of all, I'd have to hike myself up on the table. I'm a woman in my 40s.
Well, you could put it on the ground.
Okay, oh, that's worse. Have you seen me get up off the ground? Okay, how about a chair? Okay.
Or you're just gonna sit on it.
Well, I'm just saying that, like, put it on a chair. I'll do the reverse cowgirl, right?
Right.
Get on there. Naked, not naked.
Well,
having had breakfast, not having had breakfast. See, it's almost
Maybe
like
while
those-
you're eating
I don't know.
breakfast.
It becomes like those math equations that you had to do in 3rd grade, and I ended up perplexed, which was like, Dick and Jane start out their house at 7:00 in the morning. They go, and they were going 60 miles per hour, going to Toledo.
Right. And
when would
another
they get to
train,
Howard Beach?
yeah.
And I'm like, wait, who fed the cat? So it's
Yeah.
like, just think about that. Me squatting over a large dildo.
Well, if you ever
Is
have
it one of
really
color?
big thigh muscles, I'm gonna know
Big
why.
I have big thighs, not big thigh muscles.
I'm gonna know why. If ever your thigh muscles get really toned, it's because you have a dildo
and I
attached
can
to a
do
chair.
deep knee bends, and then it's like,
You're like, Aaron, watch me pick this up.
right with my vagina. Oh, did you remember that song called "Shock the Monkey"? You know what that's about?
Do I
Peter
know that
Gabriel.
song? Oh, maybe if I heard it, I know. That sounds
Oh my
familiar
God, it's
now.
from the 80s. You were just born as a wee baby. You
As
didn't
a wee
listen to
babe?
"Shock the Monkey."
Probably. Liz probably made me
Someone
listen
once
to it.
told me, we should look that up, an Urban Dictionary, and just see. Somebody once told me that is a term that when naked strippers can go and like pick up a coin or a dollar bill off of a stage
With their
vagina.
piaos?
Yeah.
With their lips? That's creepy.
Well-
How do you train your lips to open and close?
Well, think if you could, you'd be much more popular with the boys than
might
you are
be.
now. Here, let me just look it up and see
I
if
could
Shock
be
the Monkey.
Married to
This
a
is
rich,
not the
wealthy
direction. I
man.
thought we were going to have kind of like this political conversation about racism today, and we're talking about shocking the monkey. Okay, hold on.
I've never heard
Shock.
that. Isn't that like a giraffe bite?
Shock the
Isn't
monkey.
that what that's
shock
called?
the monkey. Shock the puss, shock the monkey.
What does it mean?
God, I don't know who.
I love Urban
I don't-
Dictionary.
who created Urban Dictionary, and can we date and be family? Okay, shock the monkey. This is not what I thought it was going to be. When a redneck pees on a spark plug.
Oh.
Yikes. Hey, Billy Bob. You'd hear about Billy Joe. He done shocked the monkey and nearly killed himself. Okay, didn't know that. Shock the monkey. When a vibrator short circuits in an extremely hairy vagina. Oh, God.
Why does it have to be? Oh, I guess because that makes it a
That's
monkey.
literally shocking the monkey. This is actually the inspiration behind the song "Shock the Monkey," as Peter Gabriel is an avid fan of this move. What?
Of short-circuiting vibrators?
Yeah, that is
Peter
not
Gabriel,
what I heard.
you dirty little fuck.
I heard it had to do with picking something up off a stripper being able to pick something up off the floor.
I always thought that was like a camel bite.
Now see.
We'll look it up. Look up camel bite.
This is just not right. You probably shouldn't let anybody over the age of 40 be looking through camel spider, camel toes, camel crush,
Camel crush.
camel bite.
What does it say? Is it
Okay,
creepy?
this is camel bite. When one person squeezes another person's thigh region hard, resembling
Right.
the bite of an actual camel. Here's an example. Joe gave Taylor a camel bite, and she liked it.
and she liked it.
That's horrible.
Oh.
So that is not anything like I want to try that either.
Yeah.
So no, I really thought we were going to have this great, like...
Well, we can. Let's go. Go back.
Okay, well, let me ask you. Let's talk about Bill Cosby. Oh. Hey, it's Fat Albert. What the fuck? Are you crushed?
I am crushed. I
don't want it to be true. I don't want it to be true.
I know. I don't want it to be true either, but there's so many people coming out now that I feel
One of them, which is Janice Dickinson. But
she's a little loon. And I hate saying that because
you can be crazy and still get raped.
Right. And I don't...
And more likely probably to because you're not looking out for your stuff.
And
right.
I don't want it to become a victim bashing thing. You know, like I'm not saying... It takes a lot to come out to say that happened to you. So I hope that's a true story, because otherwise it's just terrible. But it just breaks my heart. But I also hadn't realized that a few years ago that the allegations came out. I didn't realize.
There's been talk. It's funny. When I first moved to New York, 17 or so years ago, there was talk early on, like just like, we work in the entertainment business, right. Just like, hey, did you hear Jodie Foster's gay
right.
before she came out? Or, there would be these rumors that nobody could really comment other than like, did you hear that? And it was always so surprising to people when something
right.
happened. And one of them happened to be about allegedly Bill Cosby. And I had noticed that there was more of that talk around the time when Nicole Simpson and what's his face? O.J. Simpson. And I thought, okay, this is just such racism. Like, okay, let's have a bunch of black guys who did really well, and then we'll just like say that they, oh, God bless you. We'll just start bashing anybody who's done well in the black community. And I kind of thought it was racism. And the Cosby Show was so big, and I thought, who else are you going to say something bad about than Bill Cosby?
Right.
As a woman who's gone to college, and you know how prevalent rape is on college campuses.
Right.
My husband is completely freaking out right now because he just never, I don't think he ever got, not that he was closed-minded, he just never got how prevalent it was.
Right.
And he even said, like, who doesn't come forward after they've been raped? And I would say a majority of women do not, and especially if you're a teenager, because a lot of these girls were teenagers. And I said, I think you'd be surprised at how many women that have been raped.
Right.
So it's really complex. All I can say about it is that it's just another, if it's true, it's horrible.
Right.
If it's not true, it's equally as horrible. Does it surprise me anymore? Like, the older I get, it's like people that I've held up in such esteem and been like, oh, they're above reproach and they're such good this or such good that. I'm beginning to think that people do that to like hide how dark, they a friend of mine used to say, well, the brighter the light, the darker the shadow,
right.
And it's like, fuck.
I don't know. I mean, it's terrible. The whole thing is terrible. Did you see that Jill Scott came out and said she doesn't believe any of this because she knows him and she doesn't think that he did this?
Well, I think it'd be really hard if you loved him and were in a relationship with him. Because there are such good things about him. Like, there's no doubt he's funny, he's lovable, he's likable. It would be hard for me to wrap my head around it if I was in a personal relationship with him and then realize that people, even people that you love and respect, do things that are really horrendously bad.
Right.
I don't know. It's so complex. I'm just brokenhearted. I'm just such a talent, and I feel bad for his wife. I feel bad for those women. And we talked about this. What was it? Maybe a few shows ago about like him being interviewed, and I said that
how sad it was. His interview was creepy.
Well, yeah, because I think that there's something. I don't know if it's early onset of dementia or so. There's something not right, and I said I don't know why they're allowing him to go out. Jesus, I don't know. It's the same way I feel like, seeing, those guards from World War II, and they're hunting them down, and they're like old men now.
Right. And
I do have some compassion going, God damn, they're old men. But on the other hand, I go, you know what? You perpetrated these horrible, horrible acts.
Right.
shit ends up catching up to you, and we just live in a different time and place now. It's like, when he was doing that stuff in the 70s and 80s and even in the early 90s, there were no, there weren't cell phones, there was the internet, there wasn't, we lived a much more innocent life. People tended to look the other way if you purported to be this kind of person, which people don't do that now. There's enough like keyboard warriors to go, say, guess what, this happened, I heard about this, and you should investigate that. And
I think now people want to take innocent people down. Not that I'm saying he's innocent. I'm just saying that in general, it's like the better person you are, the harder that you can fall, and people are looking. I mean, they're looking for it now. I feel like that's the age of paparazzi and the internet and all of this. People are just looking to catch you doing something bad.
But it's also like all those people sitting behind their keyboard. They're braver to do it when they're covered undercover of the internet instead of being able to say something to someone's face.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I just don't know where I fall.
Well, they stopped playing Cosby reruns and stuff like that, and I'm kind of torn when they do stuff like that, because I feel like we haven't stopped playing Michael Jackson music. Why are we still playing that? But now we can't watch a family values show that actually the show was really good. More, you know what I mean?
And that if at any time if people really knew what went on with other people's lives, then what we would have you're right. There's it's like what did I see over the weekend that I remembered that I loved it when I was a kid? Oh, Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah.
And what was that guy's name? Bob. And all that stuff came out about him, that he he was into porn movies before there were porn movies and all this weird stuff. And like, would he have had a show? Well, he had a show. People knew about it, but that we didn't have the internet. We didn't have such easy access to it. I guess when you know better, you do better. But I also feel bad for like everybody else that was on that show. So like Felicia Rashad gets punished because
it's the same thing with what's his face, Steven, what's his face from Seventh Heaven, that guy that had all that child porn, and now they're not playing that show anymore. And I understand during the midst of it, pulling it off the air to be like, whoa, okay, we don't want to,
or leave it on the air and then bank his portion of whatever residuals.
But they can't do that. It's contracts. Right. But it just, all of this stuff, it tickles me, I guess. I don't know, to think that really you're gonna pull these shows that actually were morally supposed to be like good family shows, and they were. You can't, whether you like them or not, is not the point.
No, that's true.
This is good, wholesome entertainment, and yes, these men did terrible things if they're true, right? Terrible. I'm not denying that, but I go back to Michael Jackson. Right. I'm sorry. Why is it that we're pulling Cosby shows, we're pulling Seventh Heaven, we're pulling this stuff, which I'm not saying I disagree with. But
you're bringing
Michael
up another
Jackson
side of that, right?
Is huge. Like, people will go to the mat saying that he didn't do it, and whether he did it or not, I don't know. But we don't know that Cosby did it. We don't know that this guy did. It just, this kind of stuff just.
Well, there's certainly a double standard.
I mean, because I know Michael Jackson, people still love him, and I'm not saying. I mean, his music. I love his music.
Well,
I'm not
how about people loved O.J. Simpson also, but like they didn't pull his movies. They didn't pull Airplane. They didn't pull. Did they yank him out of the Hall of Fame? No. But that's the same thing. Like, who's that guy that was for the Cincinnati Reds? Pete Rose, and how they won't let him into the Hall of Fame, or what they didn't for a long time because he had all of his gambling stuff, betting, and it's like, wow, there's all these double standards of like, you can have people's private lives be their private lives, even if they're breaking the law.
Right.
Or are we going to start enforcing all this stuff? Like NFL, that leads into Ray Rice. Then also it's like, will he get another NFL contract? Well, why not? We put Michael Vick back in. We've put people in that have actually killed someone or been drunk driving.
But then I feel bad because it's almost like, listen, if I believe in the justice system, which I choose to believe in, I know sometimes it's naive, but I choose to believe that it does good. And if I'm choosing to think that we can rehabilitate some people, which I do think some people can be rehabilitated, then it does seem almost unfair to keep them out of doing something that gives them a livelihood. This is...
God, smarter minds than me. I wish.
And what about, there was an article with Cosby. I keep wanting to say Crosby, Sidney Crosby.
Oh, God,
he is not a child molester. Yeah, sorry.
Except that somebody's sister would like him to molest her. I'm just saying.
Just a little bit.
Just a little
right
bit.
In the 5-hole. But, they were comparing Cosby to Terry Richards. And why is it that Terry Richards is still doing all the stuff that he's doing and getting all these young girls to be around him when there are so many young women that have come out and been like, hello, like, do we not see what's going on here? Mm-hmm. And why is it that Cosby's reputation is just his career is being killed? It's killed.
Right.
I mean,
right.
even if he still is able to do some shows, it's killed.
Right.
And Terry Richards.
Well, because I think that Terry Richards allegedly,
or Richards or whatever, isn't it?
Is it Richardson or Terry Richardson?
Yeah, I think it's Richardson.
I don't fucking know. Let me just look it up. But allegedly,
right.
He's
all
done
of this
things.
Is alleged. I don't know any of this to be fact.
Right. But there's been, for a long time, we've all heard those things that people have said about him, about him
right.
He as a photographer. Richardson. Oh God, we share the same. My grandfather's last name. Lovely. Hope we're related.
Yeah.
For a long time, and a lot of women have come out. I think it's because he's more hidden than Bill Cosby. Because nobody in the United States likes it better than when a big star falls.
Right. Absolutely.
Where Terry is behind the scenes, and I think that he has gotten to operate pretty much unchecked for a lot of times.
Well, didn't they say that like Vogue wouldn't? I mean, for years he was kept out of Vogue. I think it was Vogue, and I could be making this up, but I feel like I read that there were a lot of magazines that banned him because they knew or had heard all of this stuff, yet he was still making a living. Mm-hmm. I mean, and a very nice one at that.
Mm-hmm.
It's...
he shot the Kardashians' Christmas card last year.
Yeah,
well, I'm...
bunch of trash, all of them.
You're so judgy.
I am.
I don't know. I just think, this last week has been the shining example of, life has really gone to hell in a handbasket. We're living in this time, which is kind of, I guess, unprecedented is a tough... of this moral ambiguity, which is that there used to be a place where you could say, that is right, this is wrong. And this whole thing with Cosby has really made me start looking at going, God, fuck, people are fucking human beings, and they do some fucked up shit.
I think that now, I don't think it's happening more than it did before.
We just know more about it.
We just know more about it, I mean, it's so easy to get information.
And as a woman, it's like... all the, because it's like, it riles me up as a woman, as a mother,
right.
as a friend, as a sister, as a daughter, and knowing women who have been raped.
Right.
It's just earth shattering, because it is one of those acts that is, it's a weird act. It's an odd act anyway, because it's one of violence, but it is mixed in with the act of sex.
Right.
But, and it also brings up this whole thing with Shia LaBeouf. Did you read about that guy?
Yeah.
And then, I have my daughter saying, well, can men be raped? Yes.
Right.
I have a friend who was. Can men be raped by a woman? Yes.
Right.
But
is it as prevalent? No.
Is it as prevalent? No. Well, as women raping men, no. Not as much as men raping women, but they have been raped. There's no doubt. But this whole thing that happened under cover of this art exhibition, that there were guards there, that this crime happened, and it's weird because when I start saying this, then my daughter was like, Jaybird was like, wait a second, you're saying that somebody can't be raped at an art exhibit? And I'm like, no, they can. And I said, but they put out tools that led to violence. There was a handgun there. There was a whip there. And she's like, well, does that mean you still can't be raped? Well, and I was like, no, actually, you can all be. But there's something that doesn't sit right with me about it, and I don't know what it is that it was the number of people. Then, of course, you brought up you can't be raped in front of other people and have them not say anything. And I go, no, you can be.
Right.
She brings up all these valid points. I'm like, fuck, kids teach you so much shit. And she was really challenging me. And I was like, could I go so far as that I have empathy for him for being raped? But like his partners were there. People saw it go down.
But don't
why
you
nobody
think,
stepped in?
But do you think that
I don't know.
Because he's a dude, do you think that they're... I think if you polled people and said, can men be raped? I think the majority of people, and I could be wrong, I think the majority of them would at first go, no.
Because they're built different than women.
And then
he could have pushed her off at any time.
They would go, no. And then I think if they thought about it, would be like, well, yeah, actually, I guess you could, yes, you can be. Because, I mean, the penis is magical, right? And it gets excited when the wind blows. Right.
Just because your body is doing one thing, doesn't mean is engaged. Doesn't mean that your soul and your mind is not saying no.
Right.
But then there's this whole thing about where do you define rape? Is it the ability to say no?
I mean,
so he took this thing where I'm not going to say anything during this time period that it happened.
But do you think that maybe part of him was thinking, I'm a guy and this can't be happening? Like, I would think that...
And then his girlfriend was 5 people away or, in the line.
Well, in today's society, well, really in any society leading up to this point, I think that it would be very hard as a male to come forward and say, just like all the cases of the acolytes and choir boys being raped by priests or whatever. I think it would be very hard as a man to come out and say that this happened, because I think it challenges their masculinity a lot more than when a woman says she was raped. I don't think that... Because
women are already looked at as victims or lesser than already.
Right. I think that it... I know. I have not, thankfully, been in a position where I've been sexually assaulted, so I don't know this to be true, but I don't know that you would feel your sexuality challenged the way that I would imagine a guy's to be. I don't know. I mean, and like I said, I have no idea.
But, and I guess it also, there's a thing about if it's a woman doing it to you or if it's a man doing it to you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I feel like when you hear about a rape victim, if you hear about it as being a female, you aren't thinking her femininity is being challenged in any way. Whereas if you hear about it from a man, whether he was raped by a man or by a woman, there's something I think that we're all ingrained with where it's like, man, what? It does challenge their masculinity in a weird way that it shouldn't, but it does, because you think, oh,
and then there's this other thing about like
a girl raping a dude. Well, you have all those people that make jokes about like, oh well, girl wants to rape me, go ahead, and it's like this joke, because they're saying like, how could that possibly happen? But it can happen. I don't know.
It's devastating, like, to try to go through the weeds on that, and then, like, try to explain it to a couple of kids, like, smarter minds than me, and we're not dummies here, but, like, I can't even make sense of it, because then the other part of me is like, okay, so this crime was committed. We're talking about a crime. And he brings it up and talks about it. But then at what point could he...
about it, though? Well,
I don't know if he was cavalier. I don't know. I don't know if he's cavalier or not about it. But that there just seemed to be other options for him in this particular situation. It sounds so weird because it's like, would I put this same constraint on women?
Right.
It's like, because Jaybird was asking me, she's like, well, would you put that same...
Right, if this had been a female...
And the answer is no.
Right.
But again, I go back to...
Well, what do you think?
Men and women are built differently. He could have shoved her off. He could have stopped the art thing right then and there and said, get off me.
I don't know. Who knows?
Are they pursuing this woman to charge her with rape?
But isn't that like
is it
saying...
rape? Wait a second. Is it rape when you enter in a situation where it's this art sphere and he says...
free for all.
And he says, you can do anything you want to me for 10 minutes or whatever. Anything. And it's not like, other than...
Right. Here's a list of things you can't
violent
do.
Towards me.
But isn't that much like saying, if I were on a date, let's say, and brought somebody home, and he started doing things that I didn't like, and I got uncomfortable and didn't say stop, but was clearly not into it and clearly this was not okay with me.
Right.
Is that any more or any less than a
Well,
rape?
I think it's different because you haven't set up a room where you say
right, but I still
anything.
have the power to say no, and if I didn't say no, does that mean that it's not rape?
Good point.
You know, I don't know. I don't know what
I'm
the
sitting
answer
here
is.
and it's making me sweat because
Yeah.
like it's challenging everything that I am, as I would say, as a feminist, as a woman.
Right.
I want to have compassion
as a
towards
humanitarian.
I got to tell you, but as I'm having, and I've had to question myself, like, why don't I have empathy towards him?
Well, do you think that part of
if
it is because he's being portrayed a lot in the media as being a fucking wackadoo?
Well, and then why isn't that like triggering every sensitive topic feeling that I have? Like, even let's say he's totally mentally ill. Let's say he's mentally ill, and I don't even know if that's an act, like the Joaquin Phoenix thing act. I don't even know if that's an act. But why isn't that triggering some empathy in me about that? Because if he's mentally ill, then that's rape. He can't give consent. He can't. You know, you just can't give consent. If you were that mentally ill, no court in the country is going to say that you can give consent.
Right.
Regardless, if you're going, oh yeah, let's bring it on. There are laws to protect you because you can't enter into that.
Well, what do you think about, was it Pierce Morgan that attacked him?
He was the only one. I was surprised because it kind of sat over the Thanksgiving Day weekend, and I was like, nobody said anything. Not on Twitter. You know, everybody's on Twitter doing shit. Not in any of the media. It came out, and then news organizations picked it up. Nobody comes forward, and I was like, what, are they fucking all waiting to see how people are going to lay out on this? And we're so PC now, people are afraid to go call bullshit or be encouraging. And then I noticed that Perez Hilton, our buddy, said, if this happened, you know, I just have empathy.
Right.
And I was like, that's fucking brave of him. But pretty much radio silence.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing. You know, I'm all for, like, say what you think. I'm all for that. Mm-hmm. And I, on one hand, think for Pierce Morgan, I think, okay, that's what you think. You're allowed to think this. But on the other hand, it's statements like his that make people afraid to come out.
It goes back to the Cosby thing.
So what do you do on the one hand? If you're
in one of those situations that's not clear.
As the journalist that we are. I feel as if I should be allowed to call bullshit on this stuff. Right. But at the same time, as a human being, like, God forbid that I'd be in the situation where I'd be afraid that someone would slut shame me or would do whatever it is to make me feel...
let's talk about, like, when I said I wasn't feeling any kind of, like... It's really funny that you just hit upon that because that made my gut just seize when you said that. As a mother, if one of my kids, let's say he was my kid, that finally gave me, like, I get teary. That gave me empathy right there. Like, I went, if that happened, I'm so pissed at those people in line. Yeah. I am so pissed at his girlfriend. But I'm so pissed at his partners, his art partners, or those guards, even though they were given a direct operative to not get involved with what was going on. That now riles me, like saying, what the fuck? How could you stand there and let someone...
But if you saw some of the stuff that was happening...
I don't think I could tolerate watching him being beaten for 10 minutes with a whip.
I don't think... I think all of that's crap to begin with. I think this is not art. This is you being a fucking tard.
Right, but I don't know if I could have tolerated that.
No, but
that.
I think that we have gotten so numb to things as a society that I think there would be part of us that would be like, oh, this is an act. Like, you wouldn't really... I wonder how many people that saw that weren't thinking... This is some rando that did this. Like,
well, it's interesting because there's a generational thing that they're finding now, that they're saying that people who use their phones as cameras, did you read this? Where they said that they're actually going to remember less of a moment because they're viewing through a camera
instead of through their mind.
And that there's a generation of people now, because they've grown up with this kind of dissociative kind of thing to do with cameras or handheld devices and viewing stuff from the point of being away from it instead of being in the moment, that they're less likely to go in and help a situation instead of filming it or
like
watching
Seinfeld,
it.
You know, when they watch the crime happen to that big fat guy and then they all go to jail.
Yeah. And you wonder if that's not some of it, because I don't know if even if it was for art's sake, if I could stand by and watch somebody harm someone else.
I maintain this is not art. I know that we've gone through this before about what art is, but like,
can we even not start on art and rape? And I don't know. I don't know why more people are not throwing in their opinions, except that I think that we are in a situation, specifically this week, in the last couple of weeks, with all this stuff about abusive women and all these rape allegations. And I think that people almost are afraid to, like, you know, as brave as everybody was to throw their comments out, they're a little hesitant right now. And you don't even hear people having this conversation, which is like, well, I think it's more like, what the fuck? Yeah. I can see both sides of it. In my most honest state, I can say that I didn't have empathy until you said that, you know, because it's difficult and there's not a clear answer.
No.
Did you ever see the movie She's Gotta Have It? Spike Lee.
Maybe.
Where this woman is kind of playing off these two guys, and there's, in my opinion, there was a definite rape scene. And it starts off as kind of no, yes, no. But you end up leaving that movie, and it was, I really think his intent, if I could speak on Spike Lee's intent, was to really make you start questioning, what is rape? Did she psychologically rape these guys? Is it her fault? Is it not her fault? What do you think about it? But I remember seeing that movie, and it leaves me with the same kind of thing. Like, I left going, what the fuck?
Right.
It started all this conversation of, like, almost running around in a circle. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't think that we'll find the answer on here on Take It to Two. But
yes, we will. We're hard-hitting journalists. You said it yourself.
Yes. I'm right up there with Barbara Walter.
Barbara Wall, who still hates me, I think. I told you about that.
Yeah, she probably does.
Bitch.
She's like 1,000. Leave her alone.
You know what? But I couldn't have been nicer in that situation. She has the best legs I've ever seen, still to this day, that I've ever seen. Like, I have never seen anybody with better legs. But there was no reason to treat me that way. No reason. That's all I'm saying, Barbara, if you're listening to Take It to Two.
If you're listening,
yeah, Barbara. If you want some help out on The View that's really suffering right now, they suck it, you might want to have Aaron and I on, because...
They would last, like, a hot second before they went to commercial. They'd be like, God!
That one keeps saying cunt. What's wrong with her? Can you imagine if it was you and me, and Rosie, and Whoopi Goldberg?
I would love to sit with the two of them. I think Whoopi and I would be friends.
I'd like to sit on Whoopi's face. No.
Oh, my.
Oh, God. See, speaking of that, Speaking of
sitting on Whoopi's face.
Yes. they canceled my
like
girlfriend.
A Whoopi cushion?
Yeah. That's where I was going. Boom, boom, boom. Thank you. I just spiked that up for you to slam it home.
You did.
Okay, thank you. Took you a little bit. I can tell you're sick.
I'm sick.
Okay, but my girlfriend, Queen Latifah, they canceled her fucking show.
I saw that. That surprised me because I thought it was doing really well.
Assholes. They don't understand her true talent.
They
fuckers. Don't. Except that there's all this talk about Rosie O'Donnell being too strident for The View.
She's
kind of a strident hoe.
Well, she's kind of a bitch, which
is
really
fine.
Like.
Right, but middle America... Yeah. I don't think has enough tolerance for bitch. You can't be a lesbian and that much of a bitch and be okay. You have to be like you have to be like Ellen,
a fun lesbian,
a funless lesbian, a funbian. Because middle America's not ready. Like they loved Rosie O'Donnell when
her talk show,
and when she said she loved Tom Cruise and all of that, made her more of a palatable lesbian. I mean, to be honest, that's what the problem is. But, she's grown and changed and has had experiences. And I think also as you get older, your tolerance for seeing both sides of an issue kind of goes away.
Right.
But, there's nobody that challenges her. And if she gets challenged, there's no room for her to go, wow, I didn't know this.
Right.
Or, you know what, that made me think of something. Her vulnerability for stuff that she believes in is a little too strident. I think that's a problem.
Well, I don't watch The View. I can't
get over Rosie Perez accent. I just
don't feel like it speaks to me at all. These bunch of old broads out there talking about it. No,
Easy.
But that's what it feels like. They don't.
Right.
And
unlike then Take It to Two, you mean?
Yes. When they bring in what's that show? What's it called? The Real or something with all younger generation of women. To me, they make me just as mad because I'm going, oh, God, you're trying to be so young and cool. So fucking stop it.
Right.
There's no in between.
Except for Take It to Two, if anybody's listening.
We've hit that in between.
We hit all those demographics.
Yeah.
The young and cool, the old and stupid, the old and idiotic.
The young and idiotic, the old and funny, the whatever it is.
I like lesbians and gay boys and transgenders. I love them all, one and all. I know.
I don't know.
Do you think they need to invite us on?
I think.
Or how long do you think we'd last? Or do you think we'd freeze up underneath the cameras?
I think you would be in a corner with your back to the crowd, and that would be the only
like
way
Sia?
that you would talk to
Have
her.
you ever seen Sia perform? Ha, ha, ha. And I kind of dig
Do you
that.
know why she does that? Because she doesn't want
be
people to
famous.
recognize her.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't want to be famous. Go fuck yourself, okay? I'm sorry.
I think it's genius.
You don't want to be famous, my ass. Like, what the fuck? You're making a bigger deal out of keeping your back to us than if you would just
Why are you live performing?
Fucking turn around.
How about don't perform live?
Yeah. Don't do it. Oh, well, then my music... Go fuck yourself. Again,
I did. I sat through 3 minutes of her doing that on Graham Norton before I fast forwarded.
The first time that she did it, it was kind of funny. It was kind of like... Yeah, all right. She's weird. Her stuff's weird. Okay.
Did you see her on Graham Norton? No, I kind of like her. I heard her interviewed on Howard Stern, which I thought was just brilliant. And she talks about...
well, she's written like 1,000
She's written
hits.
everybody's everything.
Yeah.
So she talks about her 12,000 houses that she has, and she's got more money than God, and how she donates songs to people and not take anything. And she's like, I have this beautiful career, so I can really do what I want. And she talks
just
about,
like us. Just like we know
oh, please God. She talks about her mental illness, like she's bipolar, and she talks about her relationship with women and with men, and interesting. I tolerated about a good 30 seconds of her singing to the wall on Graham Norton before I fast forwarded it. Even I liked the song, but then she had this woman in like a nude colored unitard,
right,
dancing around the stage
her,
that looked like her. And I was like, what the fuck?
That's the video. The video is this little girl from Dance Moms. Or dance whatever with Abby.
Pittsburgh?
What's her friend? Yeah, from Pittsburgh.
That fat woman was in her video?
No, one of the girls from her class was in the video. And it's become like a huge thing. She's doing this weird fucking dance with the... Did you not see Saturday Night Live when Jim Carrey did it?
No. I'm asleep.
No. Listen, I don't watch Saturday Night Live, but I
asleep.
watch the funny clips that when people talk about it. And there's a clip where Jim Carrey and that other girl that I can't remember her name. That's one
Jim
of the
Carrey.
that was one of the funnier women characters on Saturday Night Live. Mm-hmm. They're at a costume party. It's at like Halloween time, and this one girl always wins, and Jim Carrey shows up, and they've both dressed like this girl from the video, and these like
Sia's alter ego.
Yeah, they both dress like that, and then they both are doing this interpretive dance through the whole thing. It's so fucking funny. So
do you
funny.
Want to do that on Halloween with me, but we both dress like Sia in unitards?
Oh yeah, that's what the world needs to see. The two of us in a
as
unitard.
Much as me hovering over an upright dildo on a chair.
God, that might be more attractive than myself in a unitard.
I was just thinking, all of a sudden it just passed my mind. I thought, God, us on The View talking about being on dildos on a chair. I wonder how that would go over in middle America.
I don't think that we've hit that daytime talk show. I don't think that's our forte. But you have to watch that video. It's really very funny.
And
it's
speaking
really, very
of
funny.
things to watch, did you watch True Story last night?
Oh,
come on, Double D. You got me to watch this.
I watched the last week's last night. I didn't watch the new one because I watched
with
Chicago.
Candy spelling in it.
No, this was this one.
Who's that other woman that
Mary Jo, the wife?
No. Tatum O'Neal shows up at the birthday party.
Of course she does.
It is such a shit show. Candy spelling brings her, and Tatum O'Neal. 1, what are you doing at a 3-year-old's birthday party? 2, why are you kind of openly critiquing what Tori should be doing on her show or not in front of everyone? And I have to say, because you haven't watched it yet, and then we may have to bench this until next week, I'm beginning to side with Dean now.
Oh, I am too.
I think I would now go cheat on Tori.
No, I would. But I do feel like she's very critical of him. Though I think this happens in relationships all the time.
No, not me. I'm perfect.
I don't think that they're going.
Paul just rolled over in his grave if he was dead. Hi, sweetheart.
I think that you're criticizing, you don't allow me to do this. I think that's very common.
Right.
But I do feel bad for him because I do think that the show is really making him out to be a horrible human being. And as much as I think he's a tool and disgusting,
right.
I don't think some of it I'm like, well, this is not fair. Like the show originally was about the cheating, and mm-hmm. I get that. Right. Like that made sense to me. This show now, it doesn't. It's more of watching this person's marriage really suffer, and I think it's like she's people like her. She's likable. And so when she's saying, like, oh, I don't, like, why didn't he go pick up the kids? Or why didn't he do, like, that kind of stuff? It's like, yeah, why didn't he? And then you're like, wait a second. But you've set it up in your marriage. You have set it up that he wasn't responsible for this stuff. I think you hit onto something
that's really incredibly powerful. Is that when, for the most part, unless it's a complete character flaw, for the most part, when adultery happens in marriage... Boy, I'm going to get bashed for this.
You're going to say it.
I'm going to say it.
It's
both sides. Both sides. And as I saw it in my parents' marriage, you can almost... And my dad was of unsavory character to begin with. But I can absolutely see how it happens. And yes, one person is wrong because they got cheated on. But there's almost this thing that happens that it could get set in motion. I'm very sympathetic towards her because... not that we have identical backgrounds, but I understand when you have...
You're not rich like that?
Yeah. I look just like my dad. Unfortunate. No. I understand when you have a family structure where you're not getting your needs met, let's say by your mother.
Right.
And then overindulging your children.
Right.
She's in very dangerous territory now, and especially when you go back and you view this episode, I hope you take this away with it, that she's in very dangerous territory. Yes, he cheated on her.
Right.
She's there for whatever reason, because I think when you have kids in a relationship and you're so tight, it's not as easy as like when people before they get in those situations say, "Oh, I would fucking walk out," or they do it.
Stayed
right,
for the children,
or they do it,
right,
and then their kids suffer because of it because they only get to see their kids half the time, and then if the other significant other is dating somebody else, that person has input on your kid. Like all this shit stuff happens afterwards that people don't think about. They always say, "Well, if your mother's happy, the children will be happy." That's not necessarily the case. I don't know.
It's not necessarily wrong, but it's not necessarily
the
true.
Case.
Right.
And I think that people, it's really hard. So you can't judge or say this is what she should be doing. But when I look at that situation and I see how, and it's so easy to happen. And this is from, yes, John, I'll give you a little shout out to my therapist. I think that I see things a little differently now after being in therapy and seeing my own family structure and seeing my girls and seeing. It's so easy. It can so easily happen that you get this you get a sense of self-righteousness, and you're like, I'm going to do it better than my parents did.
Right.
And that you overindulge, over-attach, overdo all this stuff because you still have this huge hole in yourself.
Right.
Where I think then she has Dean that's orbiting around. I'm not saying he's perfect in any way.
No.
But he's got his own issues with his dad dying and all that stuff. Definitely he's got issues with mamas. Right. No doubt, because he married two of them, and then he's got his own. He's orbiting around, just trying to figure out what to do. But there's no man, no person that can fill that hole, and her need to be this uber mother and have control over everything. No one's ever going to be able to be good enough, better enough to do whatever for her own kids. What she's going to do to her children is that they're going to all go, "What the fuck? You're killing me."
Right.
Or she'll end up being so wounded that they don't engage with her back, and that because your kids can't ever fill that hole for you.
Right.
And though you try to get them to, they're not going to be able to fill that hole. One of them or a couple of them are going to walk away and say, "You need to fuck yourself. You're too much in my business." Or they're not going to seem grateful enough for everything she gave up to do. Like, I stayed with your dad. I did this. That she goes away with her friends for this one day and all shit falls apart. And not saying that Dean didn't have his hand in it, but there was better ways to handle it. And those kids are then caught in the middle between these two titans, this mother that nobody can live up to her. And in a sense, she doesn't even realize she's become her own mother. Yeah. Just her reflection of her mother.
Right. Well,
and it just kills me because I want to shake her and say, listen, your kids will be better off if you just take a step back and let them, whatever. Well, guess what? They're not ever going to be that grateful towards you for giving them life.
Yeah, right.
Thank God. They shouldn't be.
I think it's really hard. Again, I have no children.
But that doesn't mean you don't have a valid opinion about it.
I think it would be very hard, when you see somebody else interacting with your kid, like, oh God, don't do that. This is what's going to happen. And then when you're validated because something happens and you're like, see, I knew it.
I know.
But I think that, there was on the one episode where he accidentally hit their little kid in the head with a pumpkin. He bumped her in the head
with a fucking pumpkin.
Well, and she's like, I would never have done that. And I'm like, really? Time out. You're telling me you have never accidentally hit your kid off the
Jesus.
side of the
Kids have
wall,
rolled.
or
Can I tell you something? I knocked Juliet in the head carrying her on the side of the wall. You
Yeah.
probably have done that with your nephews and nieces.
Grace, I
One
used to hit
rolled off the
Grace's-
bed when I
yeah.
was nursing her. I mean, shit happens.
Right. Kids are meant to bounce back. That's
Thank
how
God
they're
they have
made.
fontanelles for a reason.
Yeah, like this. But that part, I felt so bad for him in this little scene where he did it, because I thought, well, you feel terrible first off. Then you kind of want to laugh a little bit because you're like, wow, I just hit my kid in the head with a pumpkin.
And you know when your kid is hurt, that kid wasn't even really.
No,
she was like, and she's more of a fuss because the mom was making a fuss.
Right.
Then
she's like, I would never have done that, and I just thought, that's unfair.
She's never going to be able to live up to that herself.
You both have done stuff. I mean, that's just the nature of being a human being. Like, you can't. You've never accidentally turned around and whacked your kid with your purse or something. Like, I find that very hard to believe. But the show makes me upset and makes me love it at the same time. I think it's a very honest show, which I think is why it's so engaging, is because you're watching
even as much as she's trying to control it now, because now you see it's going off the rails and she's still trying to control it, and it's like, baby, this is what's wrong,
right?
Just if you stop having your hand in it.
Having such, they're both having such honest reactions that it's really amazing to watch. That's why we get sucked into it. But I do feel bad for Dean in that, like, I think that Tori is playing a little bit of the victim, and like when she had a conversation with her friend the other night where she was like,
the one that you don't like,
no,
or the one that you like,
the one that I like, Jess and Wolf, the two of them, I like them.
I like her friend. What's his name? Mahoha.
Moran.
I
like him too. Well, he's about had enough of her shit too.
Wait till you see this week's episode, because I'm surprised that he hasn't gone, girl.
Well, I think he has. I think he's had about enough of her. But she's talking to that Jess girl, and she was like, he wonders why I don't trust him when, like, 9 months ago. And I'm like, wait a minute, now this isn't fair. And I think that Jess girl says it. She was like, listen, you're dealing with these issues now. You can't go back to the past and say that this isn't happening, because you're talking about them now.
Right.
So if you're talking about it happening now, you have to give him the opportunity to fix
And it's also
it.
that he had an affair on her out of the country while she was doing something else. It wasn't like, I brought this woman back to my house in front of your children.
Right.
I've done dangerous things in front of your children. Except, though, when he was suicidal, I can see why that would... Because she's got abandonment issues also.
Right.
I'm sure, because when you're that... and I'll be very honest. When you're in a relationship and you're that out of touch with your relationship and you don't understand what's going on with your partner, it's a terrifying thing.
Right.
And people have that at times in their marriage. I've had that in my marriage. That you go, wow, how the fuck could he have ever gotten from point A to point B if I didn't know what was going on between A and B and C? Like, I didn't have any idea. And so I can't even imagine how scary that would be to wake up and go, my husband was driving around with a 9mm in the car, when my, thinking about, okay, I'm just going to make it to my son's Christmas play and then I'll go do this. Devastating.
But it's, I feel like that scene, to me, I felt like, wow, you just threw that in his face to validate
publicly
something that you don't want to be wrong on. Because I think her friends were saying to him, no, you just freaked out on him for no reason when he was being honest and trying to talk to you.
For the very stuff that you asked him about,
you turned it around to make it negative. And now, instead of being like, crap, okay, I overstepped on this, because we all do, especially when you're hurt. It's easy to say or do the wrong thing. But
you're
instead
the total
of
voice of reason with that's absolutely true.
Instead of admitting that she was wrong or it was uncalled for, she turned around to go, well, I mean, he's the one that tried to commit suicide, or he's the one that was in rehab, and it's unfair. Like, you know what, that's not fair, because if you're going to give him another chance, which is what you have been publicly and privately saying, I'm going to give you another chance, then at some point you have to move past it. Doesn't mean. But she also advocates,
like she says, I want you to be more vulnerable. I want you to share these things with me, and when you do that and then somebody throws it back in your face,
it's not fair.
It's not fair, and it also impedes her own dealing with her own stuff, because she's like, well, if I can do that, somebody else can do that to me, because she doesn't want to, like, go, here's my soft underbelly, and this is really, like, you see it every once in a while where she really breaks down and you're like, yeah, that's the space you need to live in.
Right.
Regardless of how uncomfortable that is right now. This one where you're so scared. You're scared about losing your children. You're scared about if your husband finds you sexy. You're scared if you're going to have a relationship. You're scared that why did my mother have me
Right.
if she doesn't love me?
Right.
There's all that stuff. And to be 41 and go, have that light switch flipped and that all of a sudden you see what your kitchen looks like for the first time. All the cockroaches are running.
Right.
It's like all your issues are running in different directions. It's devastating.
But I feel, and this makes me mad because I don't like Dean particularly, but I feel bad because I think that he has been very honest and it is going, look, I fucked up. Here I am. I'm doing this show, which you cannot tell me he did not do because he wanted to. He did it because she was like, hey, guess what?
Well, he did it so they could stay married.
Right. Absolutely.
And also, there's this thing in psychology where it's like the squeaky wheel gets all the attention from a family. So it's like, I think it's really easy to pay attention to Dean because he's this character. It's like, okay, dude, you not only cheated on your wife, left her when you had just adopted a child or you were in the process of adopting a kid, and then left that child with your first wife. He did some really shady things. You left your son, took up a Tory.
What do you think about that? The wife bringing that letter?
Hold on. So it was this whole. So it's you have this whole thing, right? He does. So he's this character, and then he's got the substance abuse. It's a real easy thing just to throw fuel on the fire. Dean, 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 Dean. But I always get suspicious when somebody's getting dumped on so hard, and everybody else is like, yeah, but I'm perfect.
Right.
Tori's one of them, and then that what's her name? Joanne? Mary Jo. Who, because she wanted to get her, that was a loaded gun. Why you would invite the ex-wife to confront the ex-wife about what you did, even to say you're sorry. I respected her ex-husband more because he said, I don't want to be on camera while we do this. Because it was devastating.
Right.
And that's a conversation that should have been had off. I think she wanted to have Tori feel the way she felt as being, because I think that would be devastating. To get a letter like that and then just moments later your husband leave you for another woman.
First off, let's go over a few things. One, I don't mind that they had the conversation on camera because they're both entertainers. That other wife was a public figure,
right.
Whatever.
I guess I didn't realize that until I saw that episode.
Yeah, she was a public figure. They both want a little bit of attention, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. That's what you do. Why the fuck have you kept this letter? I understand that you keep pieces. I still have things from my marriage that I haven't been strong enough to give away. I still have my wedding photos. They're at my parents' house in the attic. I haven't looked at them since the day I put them in there.
But would you ever get rid of those? I
think eventually I will. I think that I'll keep family members and friends and stuff.
Because my mom always kept her photo, her album.
But I don't know that that's healthy.
This is true.
I mean it at myself too.
Right.
But to keep a letter where the man who left you for somebody else is, I love you more than whatever. I don't think that's healthy. To me, the fact that she brought it means that she knew
and she
exactly
gave it to
where
her.
She knew
and she gave it to her.
Well, she let her take a picture of it.
Oh, I thought she gave it to her. Okay.
She knew exactly where it was. She brought it. It wasn't like I found this in my things.
Do you think she did it to her? She did
it to hurt Tori because
I think she wanted to unnerve her, her to feel what she was feeling, how unnerving that would be.
I liked that she said, "I wish you would just own up to it," because I do think that's a fair and valid feeling for her to be like, you both act like, but we were in love, so it's okay. It was a shitty thing we did. They both acknowledged that it was shitty, but they're like, but it's okay because we're in love. I think that it's fair for her to be like, just say, you guys fucked up. You fucked up. You did it the wrong way.
Like my grandmother used to say, love isn't everything in relationships. And people use that all the time, just because we're in love. And it's my grandmother saying, no, relationships actually, it's one aspect, but it's not the whole thing.
You don't get to use that as an excuse. So I understood that, but I thought, you know that this woman has just gone through the exact same thing that you went through, right? Only, in my opinion, it would be worse because he didn't love this girl. He just did it. Versus, he left his wife and has been married to this other woman for so long. I feel like I don't know, I'm not in this situation, but I feel like I would be able to stomach it a little more that you ended up being with them, because then at least you left me for somebody that you wanted to be with forever versus...
That's really interesting.
But she's saying, you know, this letter, it's saying, like, he's going, oh, I love you more than you're my soulmate, blah, 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 blah. And he got so pissed about the letter, and I thought, you know what, again, why am I siding with Dean on this? But I am. Of course he wrote that to his wife. When you're, even if your marriage is bad, when you're still trying to make it work, you do go back to these, like, you
can be conflicted. And that's the space that nobody's copying to, any of the three of them.
No.
Is that you can be conflicted about things and have feelings for lots of stuff while it's going on.
Well, because even even now, I love my ex-husband. I'm sorry that we're divorced. It was the right decision.
Right.
We don't need to be together.
Right.
There's a reason why you guys got together. The person that I married every day. I always will, because I loved him. That's the end of it. But you sit there and think, like, well, even up until the day that I left, I was still telling him I loved him because I did love him. I knew we weren't supposed to be together anymore, and that's why I left. But I still loved him, and if somebody had taken, like, what I wrote to him on his birthday a couple weeks before I left, the card, they'd be like, how could you say that? Well, I meant it when I said it, just like I think he meant it when he said it. It's not fair. It wasn't fair for Tori to say, like, oh, well, you wrote this right before you left her for me. Well, it was his wife. It was his wife and the mother of his child.
And that they had just adopted another child, or she was in the works. We're in the process of it.
I that whole thing I felt was really icky on all sides. Like, you know, I don't begrudge this woman for kind of wanting to stick it to Tori. I can't say
human.
that I wouldn't.
Human. Because I thought, boy, she is superhuman. I don't know if I would have been able to work through that enough and confront somebody and whatever, except that if it involved my children. Right. Which, you know, Tori has her son over and vice versa. Even if it's been, 7 years or something, 8 years. The only thing is that my only wish for her after even seeing last night's episode is, like, I turned it off and went, she's so obviously in pain. Yeah. I would hope that she turns her attention less from Dean and deals with herself. And that's why the second season has been so hard, because at first it was like, yeah, get him, you know, fuck him, you know, destroy him.
I hope he sees that, though. I hope he hears that people are saying this, because I feel
like I want to send him a clip of the show and say, listen,
just
buddy,
so you know,
we want to kick you. Yeah, we want to kick you in the balls. But
I'm on your side on this. I think there's a lot of crap that he's getting.
I think he's working his program, and I think that you see a very fragile addict working his program.
Absolutely.
And that, to me, speaks volumes. She's like trying to get involved with his recovery, and that she can't ever. It just, as in, like, she can go to Al-Anon or whatever, but it's she can't control his recovery or how he should be working it or whatever. Ultimately, if he's going to stay sober or dry or whatever, he's got to do it himself. Yeah. Period. That being said, there's so many issues. Does she want to stay? I don't know. But what she needs to do, if she wants to have a relationship with her children, and I know, like, they're small right now, but they're not always going to be under your control. Right. And that's become more and more apparent as they get older. People go, this is such a hard time because my kids are so small. They're in the meat of it. But I got to tell you, it's not when they're small and you're sleep deprived that it's hard. It's when they get older and they can reason, and you realize, oh shit, they have their own personality, right, and their own take on memories, just like she does with her mom. Right. I would say, work on yourself so this doesn't become your children's legacy. You're so afraid of this stuff, like you not having this relationship with your mom. At some point, you got to go, okay, this is what it is with my mom. She's not ever going to change. It sucks. I can grieve for that. But if I don't start really, really working on myself outside of Dean, right, I'm going to lose these little children.
It's very sad.
And that's what I want for her, is just to her to go, wow.
It's because I like her.
I do like her.
I like her a lot.
I want to be your friend. I want to be your friend and straddle her. Yeah. I don't understand. The one woman that you're not crazy about, I don't get a good vibe from her. And I think that she's got an ulterior motive every time I see her on camera.
That's what I think.
The couple,
I love the couple.
He's cute. The wolf.
Well,
what's
and
his
I
name?
love that he got upset in the first season.
Yes, and
and
she
was like,
yeah.
"How could you do this?"
Yes,
because I
want to do it too, but I don't. You asshole.
Well, I thought it was a very honest reaction.
Right. But everybody thinks about it. Like it just. I think that's part of marriage. Just it's my sister used to say, just because you're on a diet doesn't mean you don't want to look at the menu or have a fantasy. Like, well, could I get away with that? So I think it was frustration of like, how could you do this? I think about it, but I haven't. Everybody does. It's just normal because marriage is a fucked up institution. But and I like her, and I think she looks at Tori with love.
Yes.
That other woman,
I don't know.
Not so much.
I like that
Khan or whatever his name is, Moran. He looks at her with love, even though he wants to throttle her.
Right now, he's pissed at her, and I think it's fair because I think what he's saying.
I think Uncle Robbie would be the same way. He'd be like, "You need to shut the fuck up."
Well, I think what he's saying, he was like, "You're being too hard on him. You're asking him for everything."
Well, she's asking him to do things that she's not willing to do herself.
She's asking him to do things, and then when he does do them, she's going, "But you didn't do it right."
But emotionally, she's asking him to do things, which he's doing, but she's not willing to do it herself. Like the 12 units of shit that she still has stored up, and it's like, I have all these other things, and it's her way to play with other stuff instead of working on herself. Right. And I just say, stop all that.
And I'm sorry, but you can't, if you tell your husband or your wife, feed the kids, and they don't feed them the thing that you would feed them, you can't get mad.
No.
For fuck's sake.
Yeah,
let it go.
So I'll go, Paul, did you feed the girls lunch? He'll go, oh, I wasn't hungry. And I'll go, yeah, but they get hungry and they won't say anything. Like they don't think about saying anything, and you wonder why Star Wars Jen is having a meltdown. That could be because she missed lunch. Right. But if he gets him a McDonald's versus whatever, I don't go, really? Seriously?
No, it's one thing to be like, wow, they've had McDonald's every day this week, and that's not healthy.
Right. But if he makes dinner and he forgets the green beans, I go, thank you. Did you see the green beans that I left out and said, please open this and stick in microwave?
Right. But you can't get mad that he's not doing it the way that you would, because you also, I don't think, have ever made it a joint. Like, let's both sit down and do the grocery list together. Mm-hmm. Let's both make dinner at the same time together so that we know how we want to feed our children. Which,
and he's a chef.
Yeah, well, but he goes through these things where he gets, and I did like, she mentioned this, she's like, he's all or nothing for whatever he's doing. Like, when he was scuba, it was all about scuba, and then all of a sudden he was all about cooking, and then all of a sudden he was all about this.
Okay, which is like a lot of addicts, they become addicted to substances because they are bipolar. He's such a classic bipolar to me. I'm not a physician. Allegedly, this is what I think, Dean. I hope that you're getting medicated. That swing in his depression, the substance abuse, the filling in that hole with different women, the excitement of that, all spells kind of disaster. Yeah, they're all or nothing. Oh God, I just learned how to ride my bike again. I'm going to ride it for 50,000 miles a day. Right. Don't be pissed at him because you don't allow yourself to go out and ride a fucking bike, Tori, makes him a better daddy. If he's exhausted, trust me. Well, he's too tired to fuck somebody else. And plus, look at the woman he's riding with.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
safe.
Yeah, you're good. I do like that show. I do think is very honest. I think that you can tell when she's trying to put on airs, but I think that this season is very honest. She
whispers. It's like when we whisper on Take It to Two. She'll go, I don't want to say this on camera.
But make sure you're recording.
Right, but my ass is on fire right now. I need a little Vagisil.
It's just so funny. I do like that.
I'm just going to do that from now on. I'm going to go, Aaron, I really have to pee, so we should end the show. Well, this has been you need to go home and go to bed. This has been, wow, this went by fast.
Yeah.
Anyway, not so joyous, not so funny. I don't think we were at our funniest today.
No, well, we're never funny.
No, not really. We're not comedians. But, if Barbara Walters wants to hire us, I'm not going to say no.
No, all right.
I'll fucking mess Rosie O'Donnell up.
I'll fucking do that.
Except I think that she'd probably end up having a crush on me, too.
All lesbians have a crush on you at some point.
See how that works. Well,
it's true.
That's true. This has been Take It to Two. I'm Angela Griffith, and you're not.
Baba Wawa.
Baba Wawa. Oh, so should we say Take It to Two? You can check us out on Twitter. You can check us out on Facebook.
Instagram. You've been
Instagramming. I'm busy on Instagram.
Yeah, we got some award the other day that was like, you've hit 100 posts on Instagram. And I was like, wow, someone's been busy. I don't even know how to get onto our Instagram.
It's all the same.
It's not me.
Somebody's been busy.
Somebody's been busy.
Somebody's been busy somewhere doing something. Just check us out and listen, because we're amazing.
And you're not.
And you're not. Goodbye, cruel world.